Good day to you. It is I, Justin Hawkins, and this is Justin Hawkins Rides Again. Today it's Comments Day, and I know you love Comments Day, nearly as much as I love Comments Day. So I will look through a carefully curated selection of your comments and missives, and I will try to react honestly and open-heartedly to all of your questions. Justin Hawkins Rides Again. The first thing I must do, of course, is say an extra heartfelt thanks to my SuperThanks people. So that's Mega Sting, 1981, Justin S., Wicker Man, April Kurtz, Dan Kimmins, Shampers and Chandeliers, Rachel McLaughlin, Dave Smith, Luke Fleer, Stuart King, Rob Young, Dylan D, David Ellis Martin, Chris Liebing, Sint Extra, Anthony Rodriguez, and Mike James or James. Thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate you for that. I appreciate all of you, actually. This is always fun to do. So, yeah, keep the comments coming and I will endeavour to answer them. Right, first up, we've got David Reed. Have you ever taken a band under your wing and helped their career? Also, worst experience as a support act, be that treated by the main act or backstage? Okay, that's two questions. The first one, I don't know, I've produced a couple of records for you know, less formed bands. I wouldn't even be able to honestly say whether it helped or hindered their career. You can never tell whether an association like that is a hindrance or not, really. I always think that just getting eyes on stuff is the most important thing, or rather ears, because half of the battle is just getting your music heard, isn't it? Whether that's, you know, getting on playlists or just people talking about your music or going to gigs and stuff. And I'll always do that. If I think something's good, I'll try and turn people onto it, really. Also, the worst experience as a support act. Well, The Darkness supported Disturbed at Brixton Academy, and I really love Brixton Academy. I think it's probably my favourite venue. It was the worst and also like one of the best experiences because people were just throwing stuff, but some of the things they were throwing were like shoes, bottles and, you know, coins and stuff. But the thing about coins is it's money. So in a way that was a good thing, really. It was funny though, because I was right at the front of the stage. It kind of made me perform more, you know, which made them more angry. And somebody, one of the Disturbed fans who, you know, I've got a lot of time for Disturbed as a band. I think they're just brilliant. But if you like that sort of thing. But one of their fans threw a piece of chewing gum that had presumably been in their mouth, and it actually landed in my mouth. It was quite like I was sort of singing. It was just a brilliant shot. I had to respect it, really. And then afterwards, I seem to remember David Draymond wasn't very pleased with me. I don't know. I think I might have said something. I may have issued an admonishment to the throng, which didn't go down very well with him. But you know, what are you going to do? Who gives a fuck? I'm just kidding. No, it was nice. It was when things like that happen. It's sort of if a band is supporting my band and then our crowd is not very nice to them, I would always go and apologise. That didn't happen with Disturbed. I think actually had the opposite effect. I think they were angry with us, but not my problem. Dylan Di Piero. I keep cocking up your name. Sorry, mate. Dylan Di Piero Domenico. A band has their whole life to write the first album, and then once in the music machine, they have a year to write the next. Is it hard to produce an album on somebody else's timeline? Yes, is the short answer. It's this is a great observation. I think you get to a point where you're in a groove, and whilst people say that you have your whole life to write the first album, very often what's on the first album is the stuff you've written in the last year, because you are sort of developing and finding out what works. So regardless of how long you've been together, the gestation period for that first record isn't usually as long as the life of the band itself. It's usually just the length of time that you've been this particular creative entity that's deemed worth putting in the studio in the first place. And sometimes you just have it for a little while and you lose it, or you get into a groove and you keep it going, or you if you find yourself with a writer's block and then a necessity to follow up a successful record, you might be obliged to consider using external writers, and that's how I think a lot of bands end up just sounding like each other. Just because somebody brilliant like Diane Warren or somebody brilliant like Desmond Child has stepped in and said, well, you've had some hits, here are some more. Play these, do that. And also producers can often sort of influence the way a follow-up record or records sounds, and how your signature sort of sonic template is modified as you traverse the pitfalls and rigmaroles, as you correctly describe them, of the rest of your career. John Spo saying, hello Justin, in your opinion, what has been the best era or decade or even year for music? There's a brilliant documentary on, it was on Apple TV, I think. It was called 1971. It's like the year that music changed everything, or I think that's how they build it. And there's some great albums from that particular year, because I think it was the end of the swinging 60s and everything got darker, and there was all, instead of being LSD and flower power, it was all heroin and anguish, and as heartbreaking as that is, it's sort of made for some brilliant records. The most brilliant probably being Exile on Main Street by the Rolling Stones, and it wasn't just them doing brilliant stuff in that year. So check out 1971 if you're in any doubt. Okay, so Crawford Not says, hi Mr. Justin, I hope this makes your Q&A. It has indeed. I recently started learning the guitar at the ripe old age of 52, and I'm loving it. What is the most valuable piece of advice you could offer a beginner like myself? Loving the channel. Cheers, Crawford. All right, so if I had a piece of advice about playing the guitar, I would say there shouldn't be such a thing as a rest day, because when you first start, you're going to find yourself exploring things like bends. And that's going to create pressure, and you get this sort of blistering on your finger that can be fairly excruciating. Every time you touch a guitar for a little while, it's like, oh, and then it sort of boils up, and even after you've touched it, the pain grows really. But you've got to play through that and just own it, because once the skin hardens, as long as you don't take any days off, it stays hard. Hard. Victory Rose 1988 says, another wonderful video, Justin. Just a quick one for the Q&A. Some of your lyrics are wonderfully witty. Do you have a favourite humorous lyric that you've written? I don't know. The stuff that I'm proud of really is the wholesome stuff, where it's really just talking about, I like it when you're talking about your own flaws, you know what I mean? Like it's rather than saying, oh, you did this and then you broke my heart. Oh, it's not fair, is it? But I like songs where you're acknowledging your own weaknesses and maybe even celebrating them in some ways, So I don't know. It's difficult to choose a favourite lyric, especially when you've written so many songs. Really, I just drew a blank there, but I kind of know what I prefer generally. Thanks for your question. Sorry, I couldn't answer it very clearly. Really, which haunts ghost? Hello, Justin. I have a question for your next question day. Firstly, thank you for all these incredible videos. I've learned so much. Secondly, my question is, what are the records, albums, songs you'd be happy to listen to over and over again if you were stuck on a desert island? Thank you again for your excellent videos. Justine. Nice one, Justine. Appreciate that. There's a lot of things that bear repeat listening. I would say probably from the earlier times. There's a particular AC/DC record which I think is, I don't know, you can hear so much of the personality of the band in it, and it's Power Age, I think, is the best AC/DC one for repeat listenings. You hear like imperfections in the recording. There's even like a guitar solo where, if you believe the legends of that record, the amplifier blew up and caught fire. So if you listen very carefully with a good stereo, you might even be able to hear some flames licking around Angus's amp as he's doing a solo. I would say there's a few AC/DC records that do that for me. Let There Be Rock's great, has a really live feel to it. Really saucy, nasty guitar sounds on there. I think actually that might be the one where the amp catches fire. I think it's the solo at the end of Problem Child. But also anything by Queen from the 70s, because I think there's so much variety in the way they approached each song. And it's partly to do with the writing process and also the way they sort of supported the people that came up with the ideas in the first place. So, for example, if Roger Taylor had an idea, they would all help him get that song over the line, but he would have the final say. And when you've got 4 different, super talented songwriters in a band, and each of them gets an opportunity to realise a song to their own vision, then it makes for a really varied and eclectic listening experience. So Queen albums are great for repeat listens, and AC/DC for a slightly different reason. Rob Young says, I'm really curious about how talented some well-known artists are when they're playing an instrument they're not well known for. For example, Paul McCartney plays drums on the Foo Fighters track Sunday Rain, even though we're unlikely to ever see him play it live. How good are you at drums? And will we ever see you record or play them live? Weirdly, I did study drums a little bit a few years ago, because I think it's good to have an understanding of what the drum set's supposed to do. I didn't really kick on and practice it, but I think I was playing grade 5 pieces, so not brilliant, but all right, I suppose. I'm a bit stiff in places, but one thing I'd love to do is get a drum kit and play it all the time. When I go and see a live band, the thing that I watch most intently is always the drummer. I can't explain that really, but I just love drums. So, great question, thank you. Scottish Isaac says, Justin, you're one of my vocal idols. How is it that you're able to reach those high notes? I can't do it. It's as though my voice won't let me. It just becomes scratchy. Anyways, you rule. I think there's a lot of truth in what your assessment of why you can't do, or won't do those notes, because a whole lot of it is psychological. I always think, and indeed say, that if you're trying to hit a note that seems out of reach, and what a great way to actually relax the larynx and get everything to sort of do what you would like it to do is to distract yourself. So that's why I like playing guitar and singing in some instances, because if you're focusing on what your left hand is doing, then sometimes you can unlock something from your vocal cords and stuff that you didn't think was possible. So maybe just don't think about it too much and try not to worry about a note that's coming up that you might not be able to hit. Just clear your mind and go for it. Dan Plymouth says, comments day. Justin, please describe to us the ramifications, rigmarole, legalities and trauma of losing, then replacing and introducing members of the band, any band. By the way, you are swell. Thanks, Dan. All right, well, it can be as straightforward as just saying, thanks, we're going to try somebody else now. Or if there is like what I described once before on one of these videos, a partnership agreement in place, it can be a little bit more difficult, and there'll probably be some terms that you've already predetermined that you need to meet in order to do that. I think in the case of like an equal partnership, you're going to have to take stock of all of your assets and all of the money that you've made and just divide it, so that the fraction that they take away from the project represents the share that they've earned on your behalf. I think it can get ugly, but it doesn't have to. Thanks for your comment. I hope this has been helpful. I always enjoy answering your questions, so keep them coming. I'm going to say something now. I know that it breaks all of your hearts when I don't use a guitar stand and pick up this gorgeous Gibson, what is this called again? Songwriter Deluxe, and bump it on things all the time. But she loves it. She does. She wants to be thrown around. She likes... She just wants to be treated that way. Justin Hawkins writes again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and watch one of these 2 videos.